Mhm.
But I saw like the bend in the road, and I thought to myself, I'm like, wait a minute, if we continue to look the other way on this, at some point there will be a break point, right? There
Right.
there will be a point where paying runners won't pay, and then second to that, I'm a metal guy, right?
Mhm.
I love the ideas behind metals. We were one of the first spinning metals, and um, we were this the race that had the first spinning metal ever 22 years ago, whatnot. And I could see that we had supply issues and delivery issues along the way, many different things along the way, and there was one race where we ran out of metals,
Yeah.
and we counted the boxes, and people trashed us on back then. I don't even know social media, maybe just emails. And I remember telling the staff, I was like, guys, this does not sound right. Like,
Right.
let's just say we ordered 10,000 medals and there was 9,000 participants and we ran out of medals, and it just didn't make sense. Oh, somebody said, well, they stole a box, and there was this whole thing. Turns out that what was really happening was really there were a number of unaccounted finishers, like
Mhm.
sorry, unregistered finishers taking medals.
All right. Today, I would like to welcome Frankie Ruiz. Frankie Ruiz is the co-founder and co-creator of the Lifetime Miami Marathon. He serves as the cross-country coach at Belen Jesuit Preparatory School in Miami, Florida, where he has led the team to 15 state championships and three Southeast Region Nike titles. Additionally, Frankie oversees various running events in South Florida. He also has started 9 run clubs in Florida as well. Frankie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Devin. Thanks for having me.
So yeah, now looking at your background, you've been in running. I'm assuming for a while. Just want to just check to see how did you get into running? What interests you about the sport? And tell us a little bit about your background.
So I give a lot of credit to my dad. He was probably the first to introduce me to the idea of running, sort of for an extended period of time. Invited me on a run when I was 10, and that's when I think I want to say it was 10. That's that's the story I've stuck with. But I think I was about 10 years old, and took me on a run. I remember vaguely, but it was about 3 miles or so, and I thought, wow, this is something I want to do. I just felt empowered by it, and kind of fast forward throughout the years, did cross country, did track, a lot of the traditional sort of athletic, some team event, team sports along the way, but just cross country kept calling my name, track kept calling my name, and not necessarily for my talent. I just enjoyed the challenge that was self-controlled, and I wasn't at the mercy of a coach that said you're too short, or you're not big enough, or you don't shoot right, or something, and it just pulled me in that direction. And then fast forward a little bit more, and I started to realize that I also liked the idea behind the gathering of a lot of people. And it just so happens to be that running and racing and 5Ks and half marathons and full marathons do just that. So I kind of enjoy the sort of organized chaos of bringing people together. And then at almost the same time, I also realized that I enjoyed motivating and figuring out ways for people to motivate themselves to run, and specifically in high school, a little bit in the adult side, but I really enjoy the high school scene. If I could do that all year long, all day long, that's probably what I would do, but I would probably be living under a bridge somewhere. So I have to have, other sort of source of income, rather than just coaching. It really is what I enjoy, and I probably think about the most besides my family. But yeah, I just live in this ecosystem of running, and I probably sound a little degrading here to the sport, but it's not about the sport per se. It's more about what sports in general represent, and people. Really, I'd probably preface it by saying, listen, from a sporting standpoint, it's great, athletic endeavor, whatnot, but more so, it just how it affects people and how it connects people and how it moves people in general. And just so happens to be that's the sort of medium I picked, which was running, and I've lived in that space now for the better part of, well, since I was 10, but specifically in the sort of business ecosystem of it since I was probably what 20 years old that I started the Miami Marathon back then.
So tell me a little bit about this. So you just said that that big one. You started the Miami Marathon. What
Myself
was
with two, I had two partners. And it
well,
was
with
co
it, with your two partners? What was the
Yeah.
genesis of that? How did that idea come about and the creation of it, the creation of it all?
Identifying the need in, or not necessarily the need, but the gap in our own community. I was vaguely involved or vaguely interested in what was happening locally, and didn't know all the history here in Miami, and
Hmm.
just so happens to be that I asked questions, and I was rather curious as to why Miami didn't have its own race. And a few meetings led to a couple introductions to the mayor at the time, and the eventual uh, suggestion really or a question came up, which is like, why doesn't Miami have its own race? If it had one back in the 80s, what's
Hmm.
going on? And that led me down the rabbit hole of getting together with a couple partners and
Wow.
pulling all the pieces together to get a race off the ground here in our Magic City in Miami in Miami. And that first year we had about 3,400 runners and realized the potential that Miami had, and not just for running, but in just all facets. It really opened my eyes, and I thought to myself, this isn't just a one and done for me. This is, or shouldn't say, this isn't a one year, one event a year thing for me. This is going to be a way
Hmm.
of living in life, for me.
Right. How fun has it been to see the race grow year after year? How fun has that been?
I mean, I, I knew exactly how it was going to turn out. No, I'm kidding.
Mm.
It really has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride because I mean, obviously we had COVID interruptions and
Right.
whatnot,
Yeah.
but I don't think anybody thought running was going to be in exactly this place, and
Right.
I think we've just been. We're not gonna take credit for it. We've just been in the right place for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that has helped us, or should help me enjoy the journey a bit here more so. I mean, things don't always turn out with a fairy tale,
Right.
journey, but it has been one, and it's been fun to. I mean, we've worked hard as hell to get here, but it's been
Hmm.
fun to benefit from what is happening around the world, which is people are running more. I
Yeah.
think they are. Right?
Yeah.
At the very least, they're showing more enthusiasm to the sport. Whether they're logging more miles, I don't know. We have a great way of measuring that, but
Yeah.
I can tell you in Miami, running now is not something you do to be different. It's actually something you do to be a part of something that is different.
Yeah, yeah, and I have to say this. You sound like a really gracious guy, which is great. It's great that you're that way. But every good race, in just my opinion, that's started any race, anything, period, it has to have a strong foundation. It sounds like that's what you guys had back when it was started, a strong foundation, and that's it kind of show with the success of the race still going on today. So,
I mean, yeah, I'll give a lot of credit to city officials, police, fire,
right.
rescue folks, all those, including all the staff that has rolled through our production offices throughout the years. We had a solid foundation. We knew we had a quality product that we were providing, or quality service in a way, and we were providing to the community, and that was sort of easy to build on top of once running kind of had this massive new boom.
Yeah.
So I definitely I didn't do it alone, and there really is, like you said, a foundation there that um it made it easier now than if we would have just said, all right, well, running's cool now, let's start the marathon now. Well, that wouldn't have been that easy to do.
So, like, let me tell you about the conversation that we're going to have, just to give my
Sure.
listeners This a peek into the idea behind it. We're going to be talking about race bandits or banditing, which is something that I've recently learned was a term, which I'm ashamed to say after all these years of running. So I was scrolling through my social media feed and I saw a video of someone that was stopping a runner that was in a race. This had to be like a 5K, and this guy had a broom with him, and he was kind of like shooing runners to the side. I'm like, what's going on? So I started reading through the comments like everyone does, and I saw someone mention bandits. These people are bandits. I'm like, what is a bandit? Did some Googling and found the definition behind bandits is someone that's illegally running in a race. So doing a little bit more Googling, I saw some more video, and who did I see? Mr. Ruiz is you've had this impact your race that you guys started in Miami, and you have a history of it, which I don't know whether someone would say is kind of whether it's controversial or not, but I did just doing my brief kind of overview of what banditing is. I came up on subgenres in it as well of banditing. I didn't realize that. So I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you first. When did you first notice this happening in the Miami race, and what exactly did you guys do, or when did you find this being a problem for your race event that you have down here in Miami?
So I'm not gonna say it was a problem like in a sense like uh, uh that it was damaging the race at that point
Yeah.
when we kind of came to this, and it was probably, I don't know, probably 7, 8 years ago.
Hmm.
But I saw like the bend in the road, and I thought to myself, I'm like, wait a minute, if we continue to look the other way on this, at some point there will be a break point, right?
Right.
There will be a point where paying runners won't pay. And then second to that, I'm a metal guy, right?
Hmm.
I love the ideas behind metals. We were one of the first spinning metals, and um we were this the race that had the first spinning metal ever 22 years ago, whatnot. And I could see that we had supply issues and delivery issues along the way, many different things along the way, and there was one race where we ran out of metals, and we counted the boxes, and people trashed us on back then. I don't even know social media, maybe just emails. And I remember telling the staff, I was like, guys, this does not sound right. Like,
Right.
let's just say we ordered 10,000 medals and there was 9,000 participants, and we ran out of medals, and it just didn't make sense. Oh, somebody said, well, they stole a box, and there was this whole thing. Turns out that what was really happening was really there were a number of unaccounted finishers, like,
Hmm.
sorry, unregistered finishers taking medals. And and that's when we started paying attention to it a little bit more.
Right.
And then I started paying attention at turkey trots. I started paying attention at local 5Ks, and I thought, well, Miami seems to have a problem.
Mm.
Don't know if it happens anywhere else, but certainly Miami has this issue. And we started I started to do something about it with the staff, and it was more about bringing awareness rather than the actual money we were saving,
Yeah.
from catching somebody. It just I thought about integrity.
Mm.
I thought about, well, if this person's doing this here, what else is that person doing in our community, right? And also, are they even understanding what they're doing?
Yeah.
That, I think there was a bit of a misnomer amongst the industry, or the participants of our industry, that just didn't see a problem with it.
Yeah.
And there was one more thing that caught my attention, was why at the end of a race we were seeing so many age group award medals left behind. And that was a sub part of, or I shouldn't say sub part, but what's the word? That was an offshoot issue of the idea behind registration. Um, your name is Devin, but you get injured, you get sick, and you give your entry to a coworker, a wife, a friend, a neighbor. And now Devin is no longer Devin. I'm going to say you're 15 years old, but you're not. Devin is no longer that age. And now the age group awards are not, there's no integrity to them. There's no
Right.
legitimacy to the results. So there were just too many parts of registration or lack thereof, or transfer policies that weren't working, and we're to blame. I think for a long time race directors were, no refunds and no transfers and no just a rigid system. We didn't see it as a concert ticket. We saw it as a plane ticket where you couldn't give the name your seat to anybody else, right?
Right.
And so I think the industry evolved relatively quick in that, and so we've addressed that part of it. But let's face it, I still catch a number of people. I do think people now have no excuse.
Right. Right.
The people that are doing it now really don't have it. I think it's gotten out there enough. When the issues on the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and the Miami
Mhm.
Herald and podcasts and live video, social media outings of these individuals, if you're doing it now, you know what's wrong or what people say is wrong with it. Now, whether you agree with that or another, I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I saw, and this is another part of me, kind of looking at a lot of the things that you've dealt with the Miami Marathon and other marathons out there. That this is a big let's say hindrance on a lot of race directors. It's not unique to Miami. This is kind of a running world issue in general. I did read somewhere, and you can tell me whether it's true, that you once caught 200 race bandits in
That's
the
correct.
Miami Marathon. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yep.
And of the between bid swapping and those that just didn't have bibs at all, what's the ones that you, I guess, most frequently saw? Is it the bib swapping issue or fake
No, people
bibs?
without bibs. People without bibs. Like just what we call straight up, just show up and use the race and then want to cross the finish line and take a medal, and
Right.
that's the most frequent. And now within those 200, then we found some favorite stories of mine. The person who printed a bib,
Yeah.
the person who gave me this outlandish story as to how the bib magically flew off of the four pins.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But yeah,
Yes.
there's a variety of reasons, but the majority of those bandits were just people that just did not pay. They did not register.
So what's and I know we talked about medals. We talked about kind of the infrastructure of the race, as far as the money that's taken away from putting on the event. What other ways does race bandits kind of hinder a race in its maybe financially or personnel? What other ways does race bandits hinder a
So,
race?
so it takes space. The person takes space. If it didn't take space, then New York would never close their registration. London wouldn't close registration. Chicago would. And so it take up a square block,
Right.
and people don't see it that way. I go back to the airplane analogy on this one, or a concert. You have a seat. Your seat moves for 26.2 miles or 5 kilometers or 10, and that seat has a certain amount of space around it.
Right.
And you're technically leasing space on a public roadway. I'll give you that. But again, we can dive into the details, but your promoters and your organizers and your event, your marathon directors pay a fee to lock those streets down. And
Right.
and as public as they may be, just like a public picnic table might be reserved for a party, this is no different.
Yeah.
Public assets are used all the time. Um, so there's that. And then the other part, which we've already run into, is someone goes down, and I absolutely do not know who this person is.
Right.
Granted, we live in the United States of America. Luckily, people are going to be attended to regardless. Your emergency is going to happen, but I don't know who to call if you're
Yeah.
out. I don't know if you've got an allergy. I don't, that bib is everything to that person. It goes down. And if you go down, now all of a sudden, I don't know who you are. I can't call anybody for help, and your family, your friends, your emergency contacts. And that was something we'd always say, and it happened.
Wow.
It happened. It already happened. And it was luckily the person, nothing bad ended up happening, but it was sure enough, we transported, again, medical we had paid for. They got to the hospital. They were out. They literally were out, and nobody had anything to call the person. It was and if, it's funny, the staff called me and said, "Hey, we just had a transport." I said, "Great.
Mm.
Do you have any information?" Like, no, no bib on them. God,
Wow.
could happen. By the way, it could be a
Wow.
spec.
Yeah.
There could be people go down all the time, but the fact you're more likely to go down running, than if you were spectating or you were just walking by.
Yeah.
So the increase of risk to that person goes up, and you'd like to know who they are.
Yeah. What's the most outlandish excuse you've heard from someone that you caught banditing a race?
So there's two. This year there was one, and then the other one, which kind of went viral.
Yeah.
First one I'll tell you about was this woman who we recognized she had a printed paper bib, right?
Hmm.
It was like even streaking down because in Miami you sweat just standing there, so the sweat was coming into the paper, and I said, where did you get this bib? She goes, I bought it off of someone else that gave it to me.
Mm.
I go, that's not a friend. And start off by that. Oh, she said it was her friend. A friend gave it to me and I bought it off of her. I'm like, well, that friend is not a friend if she gave you this fake bib and charged you for it. So that was one. Um, and with a straight face, she said it. And I don't think she believed it, but she certainly, had her story straight. And then the second one was this year where it was a lady in our 5K, our kickoff 5K for the race,
Hmm.
going over the MacArthur Causeway. She claims, which we didn't even have bathrooms up there. She goes, when I got to the top of the bridge, there was portable toilets, and I used the portable toilet, and I took off my shirt because it was cold, it was hot, and my shirt fell in the toilet, and I left it in there when the bib got wet. And I'm like, so of course when they tell me these kinds of crazy stories, I said, "What's your name? I can call it in, see if you show up." And of course, she just took off running away from me.
Wow. Wow.
And listen, some people think I do this like to make fun of people, and sometimes we treat them with dignity or respect, as much respect as you can have. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos. I'm
Yeah.
just like, you know, but a part of me wants to be like, God, like, why'd you do this? Like, what? Don't you see that you look foolish? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the one I saw was with a guy that you and he was kind of trying to say, well, I have it hidden underneath, and you were asking him to show it, and he wouldn't show it, and then he finally it just bowed out and went outside of the race. So if you guys haven't seen it, just search Frankie Ruiz race bandits, and you should be able to see it. A lot of them, I hate to call them comical because sometimes it's quite sad in a lot of these cases, but just search and you'll find it. And a lot of them is really, it really is sad. It's a sad issue.
Look, I don't want to be known as the guy who
Yeah,
thinks
no.
higher than mighty, and I'm a police officer of these things, but I just to me there's a greater message here.
Right. So do you consider yourself the race, or have anyone ever called you kind of like a race vigilante? Is that
Yeah,
something that
bunch of
people
yeah,
would proclaim you
it's
being?
fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've a bunch of names here and there, and
Yeah.
most of them they're funny or whatnot. And I hope I'm known as the guy who puts on a good race and not the guy who just goes out trying to catch bandits. But every so often I'll stand out there and I'm the race director. I'm really supposed to be worried about more important things.
Yeah.
But I really do think that there was this sort of an accepted part of our business
Right.
across the country. I've heard, some race directors like, I'm not going to worry about that. Like, well, if we all did that, we'd all go out of business. Like, if we
Yeah.
just kind of just said, who gives a crap? So anyhow, I don't. I don't buy the just look the other way thing because that's also disrespectful to you, Devin. If you registered for a race, how would you feel? And I've put this in a very elementary way.
Yeah.
You walk into Target or to supermarket and people just walk up to to the shelf, grabs the same product you grabbed. You go to the register, you pay your $5, and the guy next to you just walks straight to his car and doesn't pay the $5 for whatever it was, for a
Yeah.
bottle of milk or whatnot. Are you gonna, the next time you go into that supermarket, are you gonna pay the $5? You're just gonna go, God, wait a minute. He can do it. I guess I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would like. Well, I'll say this: I would love to qualify for Boston. I would love to run Boston, and I think that's the prestige about it, right? A race like that, any type of qualifier race, is you have to qualify for it. And there's people out there. In doing my research, I found there was an influencer last year that, or was it the year before last, maybe, the Miami half that she ran it and kind of bragged about being a bandit of that race and got toasted online. So, yeah, I completely wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying here. What are some things that race directors can do to combat something like that? I know there's some controversial things out there that people are talking about, facial scans and things like that. But what are some things or some methods that you found that was successful to keep bandits away from your races?
By the way, on the facial scanning, I'm all for figuring that part out. Like
Yeah.
I'm working with a few companies right now where we're doing our best to tie that into to race timing.
Hmm.
Uh, listen, if you do it to get on a plane, you do it now for you're going to be able to pay with your face at some point, right? Like it's only a matter of time. Racing is a little archaic with four pins on a bib, and I get that part of it, and I'm looking forward to the day that I do know 100% that Devin is Devin. Like I
Mm.
have a problem with not knowing that you are who you are. There's a couple races that have printed the person's picture on a bib because that helps too. So anyhow, whatever. I digress into that, but I do hope that technology helps. Some of the things that races can do now and race directors can do now is put a couple people on staff that people get excited about doing it. And kind of everyone always gets excited about being the loss prevention person or the shoplift, prevention person, and put them somewhere near the finish that isn't too close to the finish, but there's enough of an off ramp for the person so they don't jump back in. And maybe even at the start, right? Like walk through your start line and inside the crowd and where's your bib? "No, I don't have one." Okay, well, you can wait over here. And without getting physical about it, although there are some there was actually a scholarly article written. I say scholarly because I think it was a law student or something that this could be prosecuted. Like this is
Yeah.
no different than jumping a fence at a concert and trespassing. I'm sure to take it to that for a couple $100 or $150 5K, entry is just not worth the hassle. But until somebody goes down like that and goes to jail for doing this, I think, or fraud, even like this fraud when you're reproducing a ticket.
Mm.
Um, until that happens, people are still going to try to keep doing what they're doing. What else? I would say that it's also just messaging it. Like put it in your rules, put it in your communication if you're a race director. Encourage your runners to out each other to a certain extent. Like, hey, look to the person left and right of you, make sure they have a bib at the start line. Oof, that goes like a fart in church. People are gonna hate you for it, the bandits that is. And just keep people not accountable, but keep them informed because there's a handful of people that are like, I didn't know it was wrong. Like I just kind of I know I'll get somebody. It's funny because I'll get somebody that'll tell me a story, friend or family, be like, man, you know that I didn't register for that race, but I just jumped in and wow, it was awesome. And you're like, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I never thought about that. There's some countries that require medical clearances and all sorts of things, and our industry is pretty easy.
Yeah.
And I think there's some reasonably priced races out there. So if one is too expensive, don't use that as an excuse because I mean, there's expensive cars that I can't afford or I don't care to buy, and nobody's turning around and saying, "Well, I'm going to take that one because it's really expensive and I can't afford it, so I'm going to take that car." And
Yeah.
that's kind of what people have said to me, like, "Well, Frankie, the registration's way too high," and I'm like, whether it's mine or the New York Marathon or the Chicago Marathon or the LA Marathon or Richmond Marathon, any of these races, nobody's forcing you to pay that. You can speak up about prices going up, and I'm sure the race organizers will take that into account. But but you can't just say because it's expensive, I'm not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's just not fair.
Now, I know we had touched on, you said that, if you're doing things have gotten better, right? And if they are runners that are doing it today, they should know better. Do you think social media has some influence on people wanting to do something like this? Kind of like the influencer that was out there bragging about banditing a race, wanted to kind of have that cachet of running a race like Boston, yours in Miami, or one of the pillar races that we have out there, like Tokyo and things like that. Do you think social media has some type of impact on that?
Positive and negative, right?
Negative, negative, negative
Yeah.
impact.
Well, but I'll say the positive side of it. Social media has a role in helping curb it. I'm not going to say the keyboard warriors are something to cheer about, but let's face it, no one likes to be called out for doing something wrong. And so that social media has helped in a certain way. Now, on a negative side, I think social media is part of the fervor. Like it's the fuel for someone doing something they wouldn't otherwise do because they need the approval of the world or of the social world to make their athletic achievement a valid one, an ego building one that you cross the finish. You have to do that race.
Mm,
Never mind that the race is sold out or it needs the lottery or it needs to, you need a certain time to qualify for. Never mind any of those things. But I need my clout on social media, so I will do everything in my power, break the rules, break the requirements to do that race. And in the case of that social, nobody's going to stop me. You're probably right. I'm not going to tackle anybody, and I'm not going to, take it to the 10th power legally. But I think there's something driving that, and the person isn't entirely to blame. I think we put this pressure on ourselves as a society where it's just like this fear of missing out. I'll do anything in my power to not miss out, including breaking the law or breaking the rules, and I don't care if other people are carrying the burden for me.
yeah,
And so I think the social component is present now more than ever. But listen, people were abandoning even before social media existed.
yeah.
Um, I just think this is not helping, right? And just we talked briefly about bib muling.
Hmm.
It's very similar. It's like if you are part of a running group, you almost want to brag about your time, and there's people either cutting courses
Yeah.
or sharing bib, giving a bib to someone else that runs faster so that their Strava or their results shows that it was faster than what they really are capable of running. There's this desperation to belong and to be held highly or to be held in a manner which you're respected for your time. Like, as adults already, I think we need to grow up when it comes to
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. I think it's truth to that. A whole lot of truth to it because, I mean, and maybe we can say, and this is just my opinion, that a lot of us kind of feed the beast with apps like Strava and kind of posting your splits and things
Yeah, of
online.
course.
And I think that's a big kind of part of the problem. Not to say that a person that bandits a race, I know it's more to that because you have races like I discussed about you have to qualify for, and you don't know that there's a lot of layers to now that whole qualification time and how that impacts the downstream impact that a person that may be a little bit faster, if I know a person can run the time that I need to qualify for a race like Boston or New York like that, I can give my bib to them. But again,
Mhm.
that impacts of race, those races and getting, having the integrity of getting the right people in the race. So I think it's a multi-layered problem. Social media is a could be a multi-layered problem. But to your point, the way that you can combat that is with social media. Because like I was saying, with finding you and finding the things that you were doing online, if I was caught red-handed on social media, I wouldn't. First of all, I think integrity wise, I wouldn't do anything like that. But if playing devil's advocate, if I was a person in those people's shoes, I wouldn't want to be
Yeah.
bought out like that online, and that's a good deterrent. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Listen, Marathon Investigation. He's mainly on Facebook. Marathon Investigation. Derek, who's part of leading that. He's made it pretty, pretty clear that that it can work. Like people have caved in to a certain extent and admitted that they cheated in a race or that they
yeah.
didn't cross all the mats and whatnot. And so, listen, the social pressure is good, and it may very well straighten some people out, or
Yeah.
at the very least, keep some people afraid, or be afraid enough to not do it.
What do you say to a runner or potential runner that says, all right, race banding. Me being a race bandit is patronizing your race. I'm bringing eyeballs to your race. I'm bringing attention to your race. All of the negative things that can happen is not the juice is not worth the squeeze. Calling me out. I mean, I am showing that your race means something. I am your client, even though I'm not paying. What do you say to people like that?
I just can't buy it. Like I can't. The exchange there is not a fair one. Like again, I use it to apply to everything else you have to pay for. Like just because I'm saying that I want your product, and therefore other people are like, oh wait, Johnny wants this product. Therefore that product now is elevated because Johnny wants it, and now
Mm,
you know what, Johnny doesn't have to pay for it, but it's okay because he's told everybody else how cool his race is, or how attractive that race is, or appealing, or whatnot. And I can't buy it. I don't. I'm pretty black and white when it comes to this, where it's
yeah,
just like I walk into a store, walk into a car dealer, I buy plane tickets online, all those things. You pay for something regardless of the importance that person is putting on it. Now, if you had called me and they're like, listen, I'm a social media influencer and let's exchange. Maybe we'll have a conversation about it. I don't know. I think today, this day and age, everyone's an influencer in their own
yeah.
right. Um, and so it's tough to say, well, these influencers are going to be given a free pass, and then the regular person is not. Like, we'll do that maybe leading up to the race,
Mm.
or we've had partnerships, especially with certain brands, to promote certain things. But I just couldn't sit with a person and say, yeah, it's okay because you know you did what you did because you've got a lot of followers, or you've put our race out there.
You've started 9 run clubs in South Florida area, which is very popular. Um, and here in Virginia, where I'm at, we do have same running groups. Some of them are training groups that are paid training groups,
Mhm.
and you do have people that train in those training groups that are paid training groups that don't pay. Do you consider something like that as kind of training baiting, banditing? I say baiting, banditing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to the same thing. If someone, the gatekeeper in this case, and the head coach of that training group, or the club says this is how much it costs to get this, and you don't pay that, then
Yeah,
I think that's wrong. Now, if you want to take it up with them and say, I think it should be cheaper, we can have you can have
yeah,
those discussions with the training group. But that's just as bad. There's plenty of examples. I used to lead a couple training groups down here where people would show up, and and just drink the water and the cool, the amenities that were provided to the runner, support along the way, and they take advantage of it. They also take advantage of the fact that you designed a route that is that specific week's distance, and now it took somebody's time to do that and
Yeah.
plan that out and whatnot, and now you're just going to show up and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just it's only a sip of water. No, but it's just one more, and like if you have that, it eventually becomes a snowball, and you've got now less people paying than actually pay, and
Yeah.
whether it's one or 10 or 50 of them, it's not following the rules established by that group or that group's leader.
So the other gray area to this is the bandit practices of jump-ins, meaning a person that's probably on their regular training run, right? And just so happen, it's a race, not necessarily a marathon, any type of race is going on that they find themselves on that course. Similar to the training groups, if a person may come out one day just to check out the training group to see what it's all about, not
Yeah, or
not
they or
not an
they
extended
say,
period.
yeah,
Yeah,
or in the race they say I'm only going to run with my friend for a mile,
right,
or
right,
I'm going to only run the last part. I
exactly.
get that all the time. That people, it's no different. Like it's
Yeah.
no, it's again, it's like I want to take my kids to the movies tonight, and I tell my kids, hey, look, we're not going to pay because we're only going to come in halfway into the movie. Like it's no different than that. Like just because you're taking less of something,
Mm,
because I get that a lot of times. Like people will say, well, I'm not going to take any of the water or any of the Gatorade along the way. Um, and I'm not going to grab the medal at the finish, which most people say that and they don't mean that.
mm,
Um, and so you're going to run 26.2 miles. You're not going to use any of our resources,
yeah,
none, none. And so that's a problem when they start to rationalize. I'm only doing a little bit of this. Now, listen, if it's a family member sprints next to you for 100 meters and takes some pictures of you, fine. But oh no, I have a pacer. I heard this too. He's only pacing me for 5 miles. He's a participant. He's taking up space on a road that is closed for paid participants. And eh, spectators are also kind of, being kept safe. There's cops along the way. There's this whole system. You got to be what you paid to be or be a spectator. Um, and so I really get passionate about that because that's sort of the deterioration of the decision. It's like or the deterioration of the standard a bit, like just a little bit. Like I didn't pay for my drink, I didn't pay for the drink, but I'm only going to take a little bit of fountain drink. Well, but the cup was that cost.
yeah,
You didn't pay for 10% of the cup. So.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess I go in circles with it, but there is a little bit of a grayness, not necessarily grayness in terms of what you're doing is wrong or right, grayness in the judgment of what you're doing.
yeah, yeah. As well said. I agree. It's kind of akin to a person that's, I'm not sure if you guys have it in Florida where you go to some of these wholesale stores like a Costco or BJ's. I'm not sure if you guys have that where
Yeah,
they
yeah, we got
have like
BJ's,
the
we got BJ's
they
down
have the
here.
samples there for you, and a person's taking a sample. Um, you don't want a person going in there taking like the whole sample as their
Yeah,
lunch.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
that
that's the way I
wasn't the
kind of look at it.
intention. And listen, there's a lot in spirit and intention, and the intention there is to give you a sample so you can buy something. If
Right.
you
Right.
stand there and have lunch, yeah, some might say you're taking advantage of the system, but yeah, it is. I never thought of that analogy, but yeah, it's the same. It is the
Yeah.
same. It is definitely the same. It just you're using something that wasn't intended to be used in that manner,
Yeah.
and in this case, you're not paying for it the way, you know, it was intended to be.
Well, Frankie, I appreciate the conversation today. I think this will be really, really informative to a lot of runners that's out there that are even thinking about doing something like that, which hopefully they're not. But again, Frankie, thank you for joining the show today.
Thank you, Devin. And if anybody out there needs more discussion on this because they're on the fence, feel free to reach out and or talk to your race director. Maybe they're okay with it. I don't know. But at the race you pick, I'll see you out on the course sometime. Don't stop.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.